This episode of the Grand Rising Show was brought to you by Autochthonous Assembly, where the real work gets done. Autochthonous Assembly is a gathering of the minds that do the work. Now, for many of our first-time subscribers and first-time visitors, you may be wondering who Autochthonous Assembly are. You can find this information about our mission statement and our core values on the website at autochthonousassembly.com/about. We are a nonprofit organization dedicated to raising up Indigenous American voices by using genealogy, also known as family history, or your family tree, which is the study of families and the tracing of their lineages and history. Genealogists use oral interviews, historical records, genetic analysis, and other records to obtain information about a family and to demonstrate kinship and pedigrees of its members. Our core values are the foundation of our company, which is essential to our success and serve as a lens through which we evaluate every business decision. Those core values are, but are not limited to, integrity, which is knowing and doing what is right; respect, which is treating others the way you want to be treated; responsibility, which is embracing opportunities to contribute; and servant leadership, which is serving the common good. Now, at Autochthonous Assembly, we have a couple of goals here. And our first goal and foremost of the reason why we do everything that we do is to ensure that we help you do your genealogy and connect back to your tribe and find out where you are from. Everything that we do from the standpoint of the Grand Rising Show and all the information that's posted on the website is dedicated to that one specific purpose. Help your genealogy, find your relatives, find your family so that you will know exactly who you are. And if you choose to, tie back into your tribe, whether that tribe is a Native American tribe, an American Indian tribe, whether it's allowing you to determine which house in Africa that you belong to, or what clan of Scandinavia or Europe or France that you belong to. Either way, our goal is to do just that, help you find out who you are so you know exactly where to start. We are not here to tell you who you are, and we're not here to tell you who you are not. We're just here to help you discover your beginnings. Another one of our missions is to help you become financially independent so that you can help your generations for the next 7 generations and be able to put a stable foundation for you and your relatives. And if you should choose to use this information that we provide free of charge to help not only yourself, but your community and your tribe, then we will do everything in our power to make sure that gets done as well. And remember, our goal here is to make sure that we help you get exposed to this information to put you in the best situation possible. So now what I'm going to do now is return it back over to the panel to see if there was anything I missed, and I will go ahead and get set up so we can get ready and get digging into this information. Panel, take it away.
Warning, warning, warning. Hard hats, pickaxe, shovels, boots required.
Rising. Hopefully everyone's doing well this rising. Hopefully everyone. Yeah, we live. Yeah. Did they just send me to? Man,
I'm
listen.
just saying, I heard you in the background. I was making sure. I heard the playback. We good.
Oh, you were doing the same thing on Shut Up? Me too. I was like, he ain't gonna get me like yesterday.
Get you like yesterday. What are you talking about?
Yeah, you said it back.
I came in, did that whole wonderful laid out introduction. I was talking to myself.
You should have recorded that, Bone.
It's recorded. All the shows from now on are recorded.
Before you hit live.
But it doesn't matter. Even when we're live, it's recorded.
Oh,
you
right.
It just can't hear it because I got the. Anyway, never mind. Grand Rising, everybody.
You live. Peace, y'all.
How's everyone doing this rising? You good, Bones? No
I hear playback on your end.
It's playback.
Oh, let me
Oh, I heard myself again.
Stop it.
Oh, I heard myself again. Oh, there it is again.
Oh, man.
You know what?
I don't like that.
How about now? How about now? That's better?
No, I don't hear it.
Okay, good. Goodness.
I can't hear myself no more.
Good. Just listen, man. Listen. Just listen.
Why we bum rushing? They're
gonna be like, you know what? For the first 10 minutes, I ain't speaking to y'all no more. I see what y'all doing.
y'all can introduce the show. Messing me up.
Grand Rising to the new subscribers. Oh. I've been trying to say Grand Rising, y'all, for the last 10 minutes. Is
that what you were trying to speak to? I would have been quiet.
No, you ain't got to lie, Craig. You ain't got to lie.
I'm sitting there. I ain't lying.
We're going to say that y'all could have subscribed and be watching anybody, but you chose to do that with us, so we definitely appreciate you. I want to say Grand Rising and peace to the Autochthonous Assembly, Silent Majority, or as we call them, the A2 Samaj. Y'all make up the numbers that we have, and we definitely appreciate you, knowing that you're going out there and taking this information and use it to benefit your relatives, your community, and in some cases, your tribes, your clans, and your houses. So we definitely appreciate you. And to the best chat ever on Earth, with an F and a PH.
Who that?
Really? Who that? That's what we doing. Hopefully everyone's doing well. Jiminy Christmas. It's gonna make it difficult for our brother this rising.
Baby.
Grand Rising David Corey, Grand Rising Copper Colored Ancestor, Grand Rising Patty Bus, excuse me. I'm just messing everybody's name. So you know you're relative when I mess up your name. We gonna keep it like that. Grand Rising Two Spirits, Grand Rising Joe 47, Grand Rising Michael Brown Harris, Grand Rising Cab, Grand Rising Oak Cliff, Grand Rising Enrique. Who else we got? Grand Rising Copper Chopper 803, Grand Rising Street Watch. I think that's everybody. Grand Rising Golden Moon, aka KD. Let's see. Grand Rising Peapod. Grand Rising Peapod.
I'm just sitting there staring at it, and you ain't get to it yet.
Look, man, stop it.
I just freed you. You got
Grand Rising Celestial Loves. Stop it. Darn. And Grand Rising Elboria. Okay. Is this Friday or is this Tuesday? Which one is it?
You know it's the Friday.
It's to Friday? Oh, okay.
To Friday.
All right. So, what did we learn yesterday? Grand Rising Feather Dragon. Where do we start? Because yesterday was interesting. I'll start by telling you what I learned. I learned that it's literally impossible, based off of the German history, for over 11 million Africans to have been transported from Africa, the continent we know as Africa, to the Americas. And why is that the case? Well, based off of French history, German history, Portuguese history, or Iberia, Spanish history, which is Iberian Peninsula, Russian history, which is Germany, there was nothing colonized until 1880s. And the massive amount of slaves that came over was supposed to come over between the late 1700s and the mid 1800s. So based off of those timelines, they don't match. It's also was stated that there was no empire established prior to the 1800s outside of the Ottoman Empire, which was only in control of Tangier and Algiers, which were 2 of the 54 states in Ethiopia, aka the continent formerly known as Africa. We learned that there was no military presence. They didn't have any forts or anything built up or put up until the mid 1880s. So if we learned anything from how our ancestors were colonized, come in, you establish your forts, then you start taking prisoners. But if you don't have any forts, you can't take any prisoners. Therefore, you can't turn nobody into slaves. And we also learned that only 10% of the continent of Africa prior to 1880 was even under European control. And they were only on the outskirts, on the coast, because they did trade. They didn't say slave trade, they said trade. And in order to do slave trade, you got to go and get the people, because ain't nobody going to be waiting on no coast for you just to take them to make them a slave, especially if they seen you do it once. I'm just saying.
Yo, come get me.
TMH, they had that big box, propped up with the stick with the teddy bear under it and the string, and every time they got one African after another.
Oh, that's how they did it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I seen it in the cartoon.
Well, and if that wasn't enough, the reason why they couldn't go into the depths of Africa until after 1880 was because they hadn't had a vaccine for malaria until after the 1880s. And that vaccine caused them to not be able to absorb the sunlight or not be protected from the sun.
Toasty!
So they were getting sunburned because of the vaccinations. So they had to get their milk pasteurized so they can get the vitamin D and absorb it. These are all historical facts that you can look up. So with all that information being presented, I'm still waiting for somebody to tell me how over 11 million slaves came from Africa when Africa wasn't colonized until 1880. So you telling me that they sent 11 million slaves from 1880 till 1900s when slavery was illegal, and it was already the Emancipation Proclamation set up, and you had mostly everybody was free? I mean, because you talk about 15 years afterwards. So
yeah, I know they had a DeLorean. But that flux capacitor.
So, I mean, that's what I learned. Did I miss anything? What did y'all learn?
I mean, basically the same thing. That the narrative that the school systems and a lot of the books they try to push on you is not matching up with the world's timeline. And it shows again why you have to, if you're going to study history, you have to start going outside of the continent known as North America and start getting everybody's tales and accounts and receipts of what happened and what they were doing. Then once you put everybody's receipts on the table, you'll be able to see the truth. And so far, everything that we uncovered, we done found some of everybody. We done found Waldo. We done found this. We done found that. But we still haven't found no so-called boats of Africans coming over to the Americas yet.
Maybe they didn't document it.
Yeah,
I mean, I say yeah. I'm trying to get them. I'm saying yet. I'm going to.
I'm just trying to find any excuse in the book that they came on boats.
Again, even if they were undocumented, they still had to have sets of books that the public may not know about, but they need to be archived just in case for businesses. You got to realize businesses that were enslaving people, quote unquote, that had ships, these businesses still have remnants today. So it's not like those businesses went away when slavery went away. Business owners don't operate that way.
And clarify something up. When I mean find something that's documenting Africans, I don't mean something that was written in the 1900s, the 2000s.
Using the term African American.
If we supposedly came from 1620, I need something from 16 in the 1600s. I would say from 1620 to 1790, something documenting that they brought Africans over in between them years.
Specifically Africans.
Yeah, written in that time period. Stop bringing us stuff that was written 200 years later, then saying African, but then when you dig into the history, that word wasn't even being applied to nobody.
Okay,
And the only
so
people it was being applied to, and the only people it was being applied to at that time were Huguenots, as in South Africans, which is kind of funny. That's the only group, I'm gonna say it again, the only group that's on that landmass that identify as an African.
Oh yeah. Come on now. 54 cars come out. I know they said that.
Don't do that, because there's 54 states in the continent of Africa.
I'm just saying. $500,000 for Bell because he. Okay.
And speaking of receipts, y'all know how we do here on the Toxic Assembly, the Grand Rising Show. It's all about proof not being a problem. So we value input. We value the research. But I'm going to make a suggestion. I probably have to do this from every show from now on. So it's gonna get nauseating, but y'all be alright. If we're gonna start making claims about things that's happening, we're gonna have to start showing receipts. Start showing sources. And I know majority of us do that, but at the end of the day, sources are the only things that's verifiable. And the reason why that's important is because it keeps a level playing field. If you're making me show sources and I'm making you show sources, then those sources can be verified. If I start making statements like, well, I am the source, or I live there, or I'm from there, that's not a credible source because there's no one that can vouch for me and there's no one that can show information. So as long as there's sources and everybody has sources and provides sources, it's going to make it an even playing field. The moment we start getting away from providing sources, that makes us no different than any other show where you have a bunch of scholars making themselves the source. I'm going to give you an example of what I mean. I lived in Hawaii for 3.5 years. I know quite a bit about the Hawaiian culture. You know, my ex-wife is from there. You know the family extensively. Does that make me an expert on Hawaii? No, it does not. Because I could tell you something about Hawaii, but I haven't been there in over 20 years. And I don't have any proof of anything that I say about Hawaii. So who's the more credible source? The fact that I lived there and was married to somebody from there, or somebody bringing you some sources with some documentation that can be verified? I'll wait. Born and raised in Hampton, Virginia. Just because I was born there don't mean I am the source for there. I'm not the legitimate historian for Hampton. So just because I'm from somewhere doesn't make me the source. The information that can be verified and documented and be looked up and validated, those are sources. So let's keep that in mind, relatives, when we're dropping this information. Even when we go on somebody else's platform, make sure we bring sources, because that's the only thing that makes the playing field level.
And it makes what all of us do a lot more easier to get across. It makes it easier for us to put the message out there. It makes it harder for people who want to tear down who we are or hide who we are to attack us. Because if we make it about the truth, if we make it about the information, the source of the information, then you can't attack the source. Well, you can, but it makes you look foolish now. See, as an individual, people can always attack the individual, try to belittle the character, trying to find stuff in your past and stuff. That has always been our people's mistake. So this time around, let's learn from our mistakes and let's make it about the information, the source of the information. Can it be verified? Because at the end of the day, We building the case, and we can't go into this case with no fraudulent evidence.
Big facts. Questions, comments, concerns, and/or corrections, please email us at the.
If we say that we're here to get it right, ain't no guarantee. Tomorrow not guaranteed to nobody. So if we here to get it right, we got to make sure we have the best of the information to lay our case out, because this might be this generation's only chance to do it. Let's stop playing and let's get this job done.
Big facts.
Time to punch that clock, relatives. Everybody with a ratchet, go inside, hand out that equipment. Somebody man that the front end loader. Somebody get on that backhoe. Let's get to work. All right, let's get it, relatives. I put the link in the chat. So today we're going to talk about Asian Latin Americans. Grand Rising, Carrie Bay. Good to see you, brother. So here we go. No sellout. You got the link? It's in the chat. Let me send it to you. I can.
Oh, make sure everybody got their hard hats on, seat belts. It's gonna be rocky. Shocking.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
And gloves needed for this one.
Man, what's gonna happen to me if I'm reading? That's like radiation or something.
Really? Really? You talking about radiation? That's what we doing.
I don't know. It's a new work site. Just trying to figure out what's going on.
The work site is the same.
I'm just saying, it's something different at the same work site.
Can you read?
Woosah, for real? Hold on. Let me get this right. Mic check.
Mm-hmm.
Dose. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Forgot what Free told me to say. Scoocher me. There we go. Try that again to mine. Asian Latin Americans. Okay. Asian Latin Americans are Latin Americans of South Asian, East Asian, or Southeast Asian descent. You stop, Jimmy?
No.
One sentence in, thought you wanted to break a new record. West Asians are typically considered to be white. Wait a minute. West Asians are typically considered to be white.
Now you can stop. Now you can stop.
It came off the backboard a little weird. I'm gonna have to do that one again. There you go.
Weird alley. That was a weird alley. Weird.
Had to come back. The do-over.
So they're considered to be what color?
White.
White.
Yeah, the back of the throat, white.
Interesting, right? White. That's interesting. How are they white? They just...
But listen to the key. West Asians.
West.
So what do you think they call in East Asians?
Okay.
They split everybody into two groups. If West Asians are considered white, East are considered what?
Black.
Man, they fin dubbed them.
Melanated.
Mm-hmm.
Grand Rising, Mike Easton. All right, go ahead. Don't sell out. You got it.
Okay. Asian Latin Americans have centuries-long history in the region, starting with Filipinos with an F in the 16th century. The peak of Asian immigration occurred in the 19th and 20th centuries, however. There are currently more than 4 million Asian Latin Americans, nearly 1% of Latin America's population. Chinese and Japanese are the group's largest ancestries. Other major ones include Indians, Koreans, and Filipinos. Brazil is home to the largest population of Asian Latin Americans at some 2.2 million.
Stop. 2 point how many?
Two. At 200,000 with the 2 million.
over the two with another two.
2.2 million.
2.2.
That's a lot of peoples, man. That's a lot.
Remember,
Go.
this is just Brazil. 2.2
Yeah,
million. This
exactly.
is Brazil. That's not all of
Brazil, Brazil is home to the largest population of Asian Latin Americans at some 2.2
Million.
Million.
Not 2.2 people,
Not
but 2.2.
Yeah, you know. So, it's like a family, 2.2 people.
Go ahead.
Yeah. The highest rate, not to be confused, 1.6. The highest ratio of any country in the region is 5% in Peru. There has been notable immigration with me from these communities in recent decades, so that there are now hundreds of thousands of people of Asian Latin American origin in both Japan and the United States.
Go ahead, you good.
All right. History. The first Asian Latin Americans were Filipinos who made their way to Latin America, primarily to Cuba and Mexico, and secondarily to Colombia, Panama, and Peru. In the 16th century, as sailors, crews, prisoners, slaves, adventurers, and soldiers during the Spanish colonial period of the Philippines.
Stop.
I didn't do that one good. Well.
You can reread it.
I will. I'm going to leave out that. No, okay. The first Asian Latin Americans were Filipinos who made their way to Latin America, primarily to Cuba, Mexico, and secondarily to Colombia, Panama, and Peru, in the 16th century as sailors, crews, prisoners, slaves, adventurers, and soldiers during the Spanish colonial period of the Philippines.
So they were bringing over sailors, crews, prisoners, slaves, adventurers, and soldiers from the Philippines over here.
You name it.
You name
because
it.
remember when we did the history of the Philippines, when they gave them their independence, right after that, they brought in a large influx of Asians, Chinese and Japanese. Flooded that island with them.
That's interesting, right? So, you go ahead and keep reading, bro.
Man, I lost my place. Where we at? Mic check. We are for 2.5 centuries, between 1565 and 1815, many Filipinos sailed on the Manila Acapulco galleons, assisting in the Spanish Empire's monopoly in trade. Some of these sailors never returned to the Philippines, and many of their descendants can be found in small communities around Baja California, Sonora, Mexico City, Peru, and others, thus making Filipinos the oldest Asian ethnic group in Latin America.
Remember that. They started this, we talking about 1565, right? 1565, you have a large amount of them already living on the west coast of North America and South America and Central America.
So this means they were here basically before colonization really took a hold. So these people were already here, and you figure they're in South America. So could these be the people, and the answer is yes, that actually started replacing some of the Mayans, Aztecs, and the Incas?
Bingo.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
While South Asians had been present in various forms in Latin America for centuries by the 1800s, it was once in this century that the flow into the region spiked dramatically. This rapid influx of hundreds of thousands of mainly male South Asians was due to the need for indentured servants. This is largely tied to the This is largely tied to the abolition of black slavery in the Caribbean colonies in 1834. I'll stop right there.
It's no fun when you anticipate the South.
Hey man, I heard it coming. You breathed in deep. You was ready to scream it. You see, I tried to squeeze in another sentence too.
Again, during the 1830s, they're bringing more in as indentured servants. Because what was happening on the islands and in some of these South American countries, you had a lot of uprisings. A lot of the indigenous people wasn't going for it. So then they had to start bringing in a new set of people to do the work.
And this is something that's interesting because now that we have a better timeline for the continent known as Africa, being that we just covered Africa yesterday. Now this time period is what? This is the 1800s, right?
Yep.
And the abolition of slavery to the Caribbeans was in 1834. What do we know about 1834 and that continent that's now called Africa? What was not going on in 1834?
It wasn't in the central. It was not in the central Africa. They did not get medicine for malaria till later on in the 1800s.
So there was no colonization of that continent at that time in 1834. I repeat, there was not any colonization of the continent of Africa in 1834. The colonization of Africa did not start taking place until well into the 1880s. So if that's the case, what slaves are they talking about?
But they telling you right now, they talking about Asians being bought over.
But they said black slavery in the Caribbean. So what blacks were they?
Indian. That's the
Indian. Remember when I said that they was acting like they weren't looking for no Africans?
Because they told you who they were. They didn't say African slavery. Think about it. People, when you writing, the words that people use in articles, especially dealing with history, they mean something. In that way for a reason.
Exactly. So I just want to put that timeline in there. So in 1834, there was no colonization going on of the island or the continent of Africa. That did not start happening until the mid 1800s, 1880, 1885. So, all right, go ahead. Let's allow. Without the promise of free labor.
Without the promise of free labor. I knew it. You know. And if you knew where we was at. without the promise of free labor and a hostile working class on their hands, the Dutch colonial authorities had to find a solution: cheap Asian labor. Many of these immigrant populations, with an I, became such fixtures in their adopted countries that they acquired names of their own. For example, the Chinese men who labored in agricultural work became known as quote-unquote coolies.
One more time, please. One more time. What's a coolie?
For example, the Chinese men who labored in agricultural work became known as quote-unquote coolies.
Our Indians, not the original inhabitants of the islands. The coolies are the name of the Chinese or Asian descendants. That's who that is.
While these imported Asian laborers were initially just replacement for agricultural slave labor, they gradually began to enter other sectors as the economy evolved.
Stop for a second.
I shall.
Here's the thing that I find interesting. When they start using terms like indentured servers were a replacement for slave labor. Remember, what time frame are we at? 1800s, right?
Yep.
So if you take the E off of slave labor, what are they actually saying?
Talking about slave labor?
And what are your Slavs? Europeans. The Europeans. No, the Europeans. Because why would you, and again, economically speaking, why would you replace free labor with a form of paid labor when you could just enslave somebody? Right? Because now you go from having less overhead or no overhead to massive amounts of overhead. Because you're not just replacing one person. See, here's the thing. This is the reason why academia don't do business. They just work for businesses. Because if you got 100 people that were once slaves, and the only thing you had to do was feed them and clothe them, now you not only have to feed them and clothe them, now you have to pay them. what happens to your overhead? And how much of your profit does that eat into?
Overhead go up, profit comes down.
Now, anybody that knows anything about accounting, it is stated that your labor should be less than 12% of your expense.
Yep.
If you're feeding and clothing and paying employees, that's going to be way more than 12%. This is the reason why academia don't run businesses. Because they don't know numbers. They don't know money. They don't know economics. So it makes no sense as a business owner to go from free labor where you have no or minimal overhead to paid labor where you have massive overhead. I'm sorry, go ahead. I just want to get that out.
So the historian don't know the okay. All right. I feel you. I don't know where I was at. Asian labor? Many of these?
Yes.
Vietnamese?
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. Many of these immigrant populations became such fixtures in their adopted countries that they acquired names of their own. For example, the Chinese men who labored in agricultural work became known as coolies. While these imported Asian laborers were initially just replacement for agricultural slave labor, they gradually began to enter the other sectors as the economy evolved. Before long, they had entered more urban work and the service sector. In certain areas, these populations assimilated into the minority populations, adding yet another definition to go on acosta.
Yes, fast. The term coolie did get referred to us in the 70s, but you got to remember, if you look up the word originated in Southwest Asia, and it means laborer. Coolie just means laborer. It was later on, like with a lot of other words, when it became very, very derogatory, it got penned on us. And this was during the 60s and 70s.
So let's look at this. Just like the term Moor started out with one group of people, and then they end up lumping everybody up into that category. Coolies can be looked from the same perspective, and also too, laborer. The goal was to get us to go from working 54 days a year to 52 weeks a year. So if you went from being an Indian to a laborer, I mean, the term would fit it. That's what you would call in Chinese men laborers, right? Something to think about.
Chinese word for laborers.
Go ahead, no sell out.
In some areas, these new populations caused conflict. In northern Mexico, tensions became inevitable when the United States began to shut off Chinese immigration, with an I, in the early 1880s. Many who were originally bound for the USA were rerouted to Mexico. The rapid increase in population and rise to middle and upper class standing generated strong resentment among existing residents. These tensions led to riots. In the state of Sonora, the entire Chinese population was expelled in 1929.
Stop. You have an entire population being expelled. Now, I know we done been through some stuff, but we ain't never had a whole entire population get expelled. What were they doing?
Changing the look of the people there. And you can see it to this day. See, it's very important to pay attention of the timeline and the amount of people that's going into these areas at this time. You talking about the early 1880s. You got mass amounts of Chinese going into Mexico. Knowing that now, it explains why you could look at Mexicans that look like they have Asian descent. We're talking about the 1800s, everybody.
That was so long ago, Bones.
No, not really. Changing the look of the people. Changing how the people will look moving forward. You have to remember, every time there's a new introduction of a new culture, a new set of people, the original culture loses a part of itself and takes on another part of the incoming culture. You can see the layers of different people starting to be layered over the indigenous people. Not only do they have French, Germans, Iberians, Arcadians, now you got Asians. And if you like we said before, look at the years. This is all happening around the same time. Mass wave of immigrants washing up on our ancestors.
And like David Corey said, it's only 160 years ago. It ain't really that long ago. So, something to think about. Go ahead, no sell out.
Grand rising to the chat. Anybody who was it? Indigenous American Leo, peace. Mike Easton, EJ Coppertone, peace. Muskogee G, what's going on? Peace, Grand Rising. Copper Indio, what up? Southside.
Y'all make sure, warning, make sure you had that hard hat double strap for what's coming up.
All right, so let me go ahead and put that. Well, let me go ahead and put that one on before.
No, he's scrambling.
Yeah, let me go ahead. Let me go ahead. Let me go ahead and put that one.
Warning, warning. Hard hats.
Copper
Big
Indio
hats,
says Coolie
shovels,
comes from Hindu
boots,
Coolie,
required.
derived from Tamil Coolie wages.
Mm-hmm. It originated over there, not here.
So coolie originated in India, not over here, right?
So yeah, Southwest Asia, just like more originated over there and not here. Later on in time, around the 1900s, as always, these derogatory terms get thrown on us. Ain't that something?
Oh man, but then we love them though. I don't know, man. This is weird.
Joe 47 says, "Wait, I'm missing a strap, dude. You got a ratchet. How you missing anything? Come on, man. Tighten up."
Man, helmet. Hurry up. Get him a new helmet.
As Free would say, tighten up.
That's what's up.
You got a ratchet. He ain't got no helmet.
Did anybody sign any of this stuff out? Nope, we don't sign nothing out. That's why.
Grand Rising, Big Chief. Okay, so where we at? Oh, population was expelled in 1929. So go ahead. What?
No, I don't know. Okay, where was you at? Okay, hold up. In some areas, new population caused conflict.
Today, the overwhelming majority.
There we go. Today, on this to Friday. Today, the overwhelming majority of Asian Latin Americans are of Chinese, Japanese, or Korean descent. Japanese migration mostly came to a halt after World War II, with the exception of Japanese settlement in the Dominican Republic, while Korean migration mostly came to an end by the 1980s, and Chinese migration remains ongoing in a number of countries. Settlement of war refugees has been extremely minor. A few dozen ex-North Korean soldiers went to Argentina and Chile after the Korean War, and some Hmong went to French Guyana after the Vietnam War.
Stop.
What's the period?
People knew that you had a large influx of Chinese going to the Dominican Republic.
I mean, I didn't know that.
I mean, I didn't either.
But now knowing that information and applying that to some of the features of the people there on that island, you can see it now. Again, this is why this is important.
Okay, somebody get Joe 47 to the medic. I think he got a concussion. He's talking about something. I'm good. My hard hat was made in China. You know what?
Hold up. No, you get concussion protocol, bro.
Yeah.
You can't be just walking around concussed, cussing.
David Corey says, "Uh-oh, you found a Chinese helmet."
You got Chinese drywall too? Come on now, we can't be doing this. Made in America.
America. America.
America.
America. So what we
That's
had? Huh?
I'm so scared to be on the safe side. I'm just gonna say I'm home.
Mm-hmm.
No, exactly. We at home. Look where that's at. I said it already.
I mean, if Puerto Rico, if Rico is rich for male, right? That's the male version of rich, the masculine version of rich, Rico. So what's Rica?
The feminine version of it.
Right. So it's America.
There you go.
That's all.
That's what. Okay.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. America. Rich,
America.
rich, yeah, for love, rich love. Anyway, go ahead. Settlement of war, refugees was.
What you talking about? We on roles and labor.
Oh, we on Rose and Labor? My bad.
Mhm.
My bad.
All right, so roles in labor. Asian Latin Americans served various roles during their time as low-wage workers in Latin America. In the second half of the 19th century, nearly 250,000 Chinese migrants in Cuba worked primarily on sugar plantations. The,
Go ahead. You good?
the Chinese coolies who migrated to Peru took up work on the Andean Railroad or the guano fields. Over time, the Chinese progressed to acquiring work in urban centers as tradesmen, restaurateurs, and in the service industry. By the second decade of the 19th century, approximately 25,000 Chinese migrants in Mexico found relative success with small businesses, government bureaucracy, and intellectual circles. In the 1830s, the British and Dutch colonial governments also imported South Asians to work as indentured servants to places such as Trinidad and Tobago, Suriname, never seen that before, Curacao, and British Guyana, later renamed Guyana.
Stop for a second. Stop.
Yeah.
Trinidad, Tobago. Yep.
Now, what does that sound like? That sounds like the same thing that happened where? In South America. They took people from, think about this. They took the Caribbean people off the Caribbean islands and then put them in South America and then put the Asians on the Caribbean islands.
Yep.
This is an absurd game of musical chairs. Go ahead.
They're saying they imported them like it's tobacco or sugar.
But all you got to do is remember the timeline. You just got to remember the timeline. When they was taking these South Asians out to the Philippines, well, the place they renamed to the Philippines, and bringing in people from islands, that's it. And telling you that you came from someplace else after a while. This is the timeline showing you exactly what happened. That all they did was took people from one side and moved them to the other side.
So, because this is the 1830s. What else is going on in the 1830s?
Indian removal.
Of tears.
I'm sorry.
Between 1820 and 1890, who was being moved to the Americas? How many millions of Germans and Irish? What was that number?
Man, was that like 7.5 a piece?
Yep,
So you got
like 15 million.
So you got 7.5 Germans, you got 7.5 million Irish going to the Americas, and then you have Asians going to the Caribbean islands, and then you have the Caribbean people going to South America. Stop playing.
Oh, and don't forget a lot of the mainland Indians being moved to colonize Africa.
Hey, that's mathematics.
Grand Rising Aboriginal think tank. So let's play the song again. You have Asians going to the Caribbeans. You have the Caribbean people going to South America. You have Germans and Irish going to the Americas, and then you have the American Indians going to Africa. Here's a question. This is in 1830. Where are the Africans going? Oh, they had not been colonized yet.
They still home, sitting in the Central, chilling.
Island hopping, continent hopping. You see how crazy this is? The only people that haven't moved yet are the Africans. Colonization of the continent called Africa did not happen until the 1880s. This is 1830, 50 years before colonization took place from any of the European countries.
Yep.
They called it a scramble to Africa for a reason. I didn't make this up. So can somebody please tell me why there are no Africans being sent to the Americas when you got 15 million Germans and Irish being sent to the Americas? Oh yeah, that's right. Colonization in the continent hadn't started until 50 years later. I rest my case.
Let's see how they did it. Think about it. At the same time, you had Asians, Indians, Germans, and Irish in the islands. Because a lot of these Germans and Irish, they went to the islands first to work on the plantations. Think about it. You got these different sets of people being mixed in on the islands and being mixed in South America.
Mm-hmm.
Add 200, 300, 400 years to that. What do you think you got?
Soup. People soup.
Gumbo.
Mm-hmm.
And not to mention, they were already mixed in, because what about the millions that came in the 1500s?
Mm-hmm. And Carpedia says, do y'all see what La Raza really is now? Gumbo. It don't take a Columbo to realize they were trying to make people gumbo. I'm just saying.
That's it. That a lot of people were already mixed up and basically creating new classes of people before you even got to the 1800s.
See how important timelines are now? Because if we don't do the timelines of where everybody is going, we look at these things as isolated incidents, and they're not isolated incidents. All this stuff was happening at the same time. From 1820 to 1890, you had people being moved all over the place. You're taking people from Europe, i.e. Germany and Ireland, and sending them to the Americas. You're taking the American Indians and sending them to Africa. You're taking the Asians and sending them to the Caribbeans. You're taking the Caribs and sending them to South America. And you can document everybody's going-ons. There's documentation for all these people moving, but there's no documentation for somebody coming from Africa during the 1800s and coming to the Americas. Why? There was no colonization until 1880s. And then it took them another 7 years to start transporting. I'm sorry, go ahead.
They can't even use the excuse that they were slaves. Because all these documented people were listed as what? Slaves.
Indentured servants.
Lucy.
You
got some slaving to do, Grand Rising Lady J.
No, they got some slaving to do because
or Slavin.
Or Slavin, you're right.
So timelines will shut all this wacky mess down. Mike Easton says most of those Africans are not home either. A lot of those melanated people of Africa came from the Europe and the Middle East. Exactly, we know.
Oh, yeah, we know that. Yeah. We just talk about the angle dealing with the Americas.
Grand Rising, EJ Coppertone, Grand Rising, Big Hope. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bones.
Just like how we did yesterday. A lot of them languages, they try to tell you African. That's Swahili and all that. What you learned yesterday has a German background.
The German.
See, when we start doing and looking at timelines, that just messes people's narratives up. It messes up the people's story.
Especially when you're using the people that you're talking about, you're using their documented history.
So again, if we're gonna learn anything from history, right? What is the number one complaint from the Trump administration right now? Is there's a big influx of people coming over from where? South America. We know if they're going to let people in from South America, somebody got to go somewhere. Where are they trying to send us? Ghana, right? Okay.
You're going to be Ghana.
Just think about it. What's going on in 2019? Think about it. The continuing colonization of Africa. Every place else they done touched. Remember, the Chinese just went over there now a couple of years ago building up. Mandarin is a language over there now.
Come on with it.
So what you don't have right now, you have the remnants of an American colony there, but now they need a striving one there. They got the bank runs going on in Ghana. That means property values dropping. People gonna come in trying to make $1, thinking it's looking profitable.
That means Chase about to come up. Look, that means Chase about to come in there and bail them out.
Watch for the hook.
Chase chasing that green.
No, I'm just saying. So I'm just saying, we gotta pay attention to these timelines. So it's a situation of mixing and matching and people hopping. So now they're taking people from South America and sending them to the Americas, and then they're trying to take the American Indians and send them to Ghana. First, it's going to be voluntary. Then it's going to be involuntary. Then it's going to be mandated. So be careful what you label yourself. I'm sorry, no sellout. Are you able to read some more?
Yep.
All right. What you got, boss?
Be careful what you label yourselves, as TMH says. We are at, I'm going to read that last sentence again, in the 1830s. In the 1830s, the British and Dutch colonial governments also imported South Asians to work as indentured servants to places such as Trinidad and Tobago, Suriname, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, Curacao.
That's Curacao.
Curacao.
Yeah.
Curacao.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Copper. The C is an S. And British Guyana, later named Guyana. At the turn of the 19th and 20th centuries, Japanese immigrants reached Brazil and Peru. Much like the Chinese, the Japanese often worked as indentured servants and low-wage workers for planters. Japanese work contracts were notably more short-term than those of the Chinese, and the process was closely monitored by the Japanese government to dissuade abuse and foul play. In both cases, the influx of Asian migrant workers was to fill the void left in the Latin American workforces after the abolition of slavery. Employers of all kinds were desperate for a low-cost replacement for their slaves, so those who did not participate in any illegal slave operations turned to the Asian migrants.
Stop. So they was looking for reduced labor, but at the end of the day, like I said, the overhead is so great that they have to have always had some form of indentured service. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, as a business owner, you're gonna always look to cut your overhead. You're just not gonna willingly just bring on immigrants if you didn't have any immigrants where you was basically getting free labor. So only somebody that don't know anything about business would accept that as fact. I'm just saying. Go ahead. No set up.
Geographic description. I was on mute, my bad. Right, correct? Hello?
Yep,
You good.
Watch for the hook again. It's coming on the first line.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we hit. Shut up. Stop.
Yeah, swear to God. 4.5 million Latin Americans, almost 1% of the total population of Latin America, are of Asian descent.
Stop.
Yeah, man, I just got here.
Yeah. Read that sentence one more time, please, sir. Slowly.
4.5 million, not to be confused with 1.6, Latin Americans, almost 1% of the total population of Latin America, are of Asian descent.
Mm-hmm.
The number may be millions higher, even more so if all who have partial ancestry are included. Wow. For example, Asian Peruvians are estimated at 5% of the population there, but one source places the number of all Peruvians with at least some Chinese ancestry at 5 million, which equates to 20% of the country's total population.
Stop.
I got a question.
What that mean? Oh, one more
I ain't got
time.
a question.
One more time, but please.
Let me do that one more again. For example, Asian Peruvians are estimated at 5% of the population there, but one source places the number of all Peruvians with at least some Chinese ancestry at 5 million, which equates to 20% of the country's total population.
Come on, man.
Well.
David Corey says, what?
I said it
I just
before.
realized I knew an Asian Peruvian before. And
Your Peruvians have Asian descent.
Like, I didn't even realize it.
And they're telling you the numbers get higher and higher if they were to count if they was to count everybody over there that has an Asian ancestor. You gotta think, how did they populate these areas? By bringing in Asians, bringing in Iberians, using some of the indigenous people that was there, bringing in Caribs. That's how you created these class of people that you see today. Do you think the original people from Peru look like how they look today? Even with us, the American Indian, we have been mixed in with a whole bunch of different people. So it changes some of our physical characteristics. That's why genealogy is important. Looking at people, trying to use some made up diagram on phenotypes, that don't mean diddly squat.
Diddley don't know squat. I'm just saying.
You better find out who your grandma was and who your granddad was. That's your best.
Hope y'all been watching them videos and premieres that's been coming out. Hope y'all been watching them.
This ain't a game. Grand Rising James Flames, aka Doodle Vision, aka Choctaw Jimmy. What it do, brother? What you got for us?
Peace, James.
I feel like it's hot.
Watch my videos.
Come back. Yeah. So now all those that's been talking all that smack, when you go to the temple and you see the paintings on the wall and you see the statues of people that look like you, but you go to those areas and everybody around there looks different than you. Now you know why. Do not let people tell you any differently. They be like, oh, these don't look like the people that are there. Yes, they may still wear the same clothing as the ones that you see on the wall, but they don't look like you. Why? Because you have this influx of people, and 20%, that's 1 in every 5 are of Asian descent. Do not let the smooth taste fool you. Are you on the mic?
So y'all got y'all wig blown back yet? Chat?
I gave him, hey, put a warning out there.
Do I need to give him another warning? Huh?
Look, we already said to put your helmets and shoulder pads and all the extra stuntman gear on. And
grab a pillow if need be.
I know, right?
Ibrahim Ishmael says, who's Asian? Bruh, you missed it. There's a whole bunch of Asians. They all over the place.
I just realized that I know a Peruvian Asian. I didn't even realize it.
Yeah, basically 1 out of 5 Peruvians is an Asian.
Yeah. I thought she was Filipino, and then I knew she was Peruvian. This don't make no sense, man. It makes sense now. That's funny.
Oh, and that's not including the ones that those are just the ones that are documented by the colonizers. That's not even the ones that came over before.
Yeah.
So you're going to be looking at closer to 1/3 of those that have some Asian descent. That's why I say they are trying to they trying to do the hokey pokey. You turning yourself around if you want to, and you're going to be lost in the sauce. So that's why, again, these people cannot tell you. They can't tell you anything about the ancient culture. They cannot. All they're going to do is do some basket weaving, make you a blanket, and give you a little necklace to wear around with some bones in it and a couple of beads. That's it. They can't tell you anything about the ancient culture.
As I'm typing Copper's response, he copied himself and put off.
I know, right?
But it's culture he meant to say, people, not culture.
Aboriginal think tank said that's true. I used to live across the street from Peruvians, and they have a sister that looks Asian. So, Ibrahim, here's what we've learned so far. During the timeline, you talk about the 1830s. What happened in the 1830s was that because you started having Germans and Irish being transported from Europe all to the Americas. And then from there, you was having the Indians being transported from the Americas to Africa. Then you had the Peruvians, you had the Asians, to the tune of millions, being sent to the islands of the Caribbeans. And don't forget, the Caribbeans got sent where? They got sent to South America.
Yep.
So people are being jumping around. Go ahead.
Now I was just reiterating that we covered that with the fruit companies. Who did they bring the fruit in South America? The Caribs.
So,
questions, comments, concerns, and or corrections, please email us at untouchedassembly@gmail.com.
So you got people being shipped all over the place. That's why it's important to know who your ancestors are. So let's get this straight. So if we're doing DNA, if we're gonna do DNA testing, where they do where they take your spit and they sent American Indians to Africa, and their ancestors are over there, what do you think the DNA is gonna say? I'll wait.
And then again, this migrational period shows you that this DNA test is foolish because it's not showing these migration patterns.
Nope.
Regardless of what, a DNA test shouldn't tie these people back to South America, regardless.
Nope.
Because that's not where they come from. That's where they migrated to.
Yep.
Oh, that DNA test got frequent flyer miles. I'm just saying though.
Because the DNA tests were doing what they were supposed to do, that means all the people the majority of the people, at least 25% of the people on the Carib Islands, would have some Asian descent. Right? They would see. Go ahead.
With the reality, a large people from the islands today do have Asian descent, Dutch descent.
But they ain't showing up on no DNA test.
Oh, we know that. The DNA, they don't want that on the DNA test. The DNA test isn't meant for that. The DNA test is a form of entertainment to give your genetic material.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is.
It's to turn you into Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey. You get so emotional. Everybody goes, I didn't know I was from Congo. I can connect with my people. I yield the mic.
Has anybody ever followed up with connecting with tribes? I just want to know. There are some people with family in Africa, but come on now. Come on, buddy.
And we're not saying that people don't. Yes, there are people that do have family that's in Africa. What we're saying is the numbers don't match that their story try to tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you're telling me, see, here's the thing. It's the American school system that's telling us that there were over 11 million slaves that came from Africa. But the people that were supposed to be sending them to America don't say that. They're saying we didn't colonize till the 1880s.
Oh man, come on, TMH. That's just a body bag right there.
What?
You've been holding on to that one? Just say that one more time.
The school system, the American school system, has been telling us that we've been receiving slaves over to the United States from Africa since the 1600s. Well, the people that were supposed to be sending the slaves over say something different. That would be your French, that would be your Portuguese, that would be your Germans, that would be your Russians, that would be your Dutch. They all say, and I quote, There was no colonization until the 1880s because of malaria. So if there was no colonization in the 1880s because of a malaria, somebody is lying. So you're gonna call all of Europe? So you're gonna call all of Europe a liar, or you gonna call McGraw-Hill a liar? I'll wait.
I got a question. So what you're saying to me is that we keep hearing the stories of people overseas not having the same history told to them as we have been told. What's the common denominator in this? It's mathematics.
But this is the thing you got to look at. When did any one of them people ever said you was an African?
They made me say it.
They told you that you was an African came out of Boston, Massachusetts.
Massachusetts, because Massachusetts is where you come from. Mm-hmm. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
You hit it right on the head, but the people see what's going around you. That's who told
why you always lying.
What was that again, boss?
Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm. Massachusetts. He chooses where you come from. He ain't my master. He ain't me.
I heard that on the Nas album.
Why would you have the African Colonization Society to try to come up with a plan to send people to Africa if that's where they came from? Why would you even need to set up a colony? Matter of fact, why did they even have to buy the land back from another nation to even set it up? I mean, really? There's receipts and records of this.
David Corey, somebody hit it one more time. All right, one more time for your mind, David. I got you.
Why you always lying?
You want me to hit that why you always lying soundbite? Go ahead.
Oh my God. TMH, I think you slowed down my chat on purpose so you can read them comments before me because I'm waiting. I'm like, David Corey ain't say that. And then it pop up.
I'm on a computer, dude.
I don't care, yo. That's messed up. You did it on purpose.
I did it on purpose. Okay.
You just want to read it first. No.
Proof ain't a partner problem partner.
Too many P's.
Too many P's. Go ahead.
It's the funny thing that if you trace it back, and if you follow the timelines and you follow the hands, you'll realize these same German houses that make up the Roman Empire is the same place for the people who gave you kindergarten, who gave you the school system, who gave you your textbooks, who gave you world history. Think about it. All this was created by the same scientists that America hated so much, but they brought over here and they learned the ghetto system from these people and then put it on us. The same people that they learned all this science and chemicals, yes, German doctors dissecting our ancestors, Henrietta Lacks and stuff, the same people.
So, Ibrahim asks a very good question. He says, what about the Negro land map? It was created in the 1700s. It shows areas that the European colonizer named. Okay, so here's the question, Ibrahim. Who made the map and where'd it come from?
Exactly, because they telling you by their records that they did not colonize it into the 1800s.
Yes.
I'll give you one better. There's maps out there that show the Philippines as Negro land.
Mm-hmm. You got to check the source and vet the source and then recheck that source and vet that source.
Vet that source. They're trying to vet the source that look like a source.
Yep.
And if it give you 5 mics, wrong source.
That's the wrong source. What's the hell in the source?
That's a shout out to all hip hop heads.
I remember.
If you don't want the executive producer all in videos, dancing, come to Death Row.
So that's all we saying is just go ahead.
This is the problem with that. And this is where we're free talk about these overlay stories, where we get caught up. You cannot have a map saying Negro and calling places Negro land and calling people Negro before Spanish. I'm just sorry. Ain't this a Spanish word? I'm just saying. So how? If we know Spanish didn't get created until the Iberian Peninsula, King Fernando, Queen Isabella.
1502.
If we know that all this didn't start happening until around that time, you can't.
Take that.
No, There can't be no original land called Negro land. How? Who was speaking Spanish before Spanish?
Mm. 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 Timelines. That's what I was going to say. I mean, no sellout would say. My bad, no sellout.
Nah, it's all right.
Timeline. You got to look at the words. That word didn't exist in it. Go ahead, James.
Joe 47 hit it right on the head. We got to remember that term Negro was applied to anybody that wasn't a Caucasian. So later on in maps, that's all it meant. People who weren't of Caucasian stock. Which Benjamin Franklin already told you that was a small area.
Mm-hmm. So just remember that. So where we at? So we're gonna. Are you able to read some more? Are you able to read some more? Or do you need me to read?
Got it.
So we at most of the
Most who are Japanese. All right. Mic check.
Mm-hmm. We got you.
Dos. Escúchame. Most who are of Japanese descent reside in Brazil, Peru, Argentina, Mexico, Bolivia, and Paraguay, while significant populations of Chinese ancestry are found in Peru, Venezuela, Brazil, Colombia, Argentina, Cuba, Dominican Republic, Panama, Puerto Rico, Mexico, and Costa Rica, where they make up about 1% of the total population. Nicaragua is home to 12,000 ethnic Chinese. The majority reside in Managua and on the Caribbean coast. Smaller communities of Chinese, numbering in the hundreds of or thousands. Sorry, let me read that again so the numbers don't get mixed up. Smaller communities of Chinese, numbering just in the hundreds or thousands, are also found in Ecuador and various other Latin American countries. Most Korean communities are in Brazil, Mexico, Argentina, Guatemala, Paraguay, Colombia, Ecuador, and Chile.
Stop. Stop. So it says, this is crazy. Yeah, it says a whole lot of bunch. It says most Korean communities are in Brazil, Mexico, Argentina, Guatemala, Paraguay, Colombia, Ecuador, and Chile. Think about that.
It's only 11.
You said it's only 11.
Yeah, South American countries. What is it? 11?
Oh man.
Countries?
Well, it ain't 54.
Ain't that about all 11?
Hold on, let me count. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 8. Man.
Grand Rising, Swarth Vader.
That seems like a majority to me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What's up, Swarth Vader?
Yeah, man, we didn't even mention California.
Nope.
We're not there yet.
Talking about South America.
Yeah, this is South. SOUF or SOUPH. Go ahead.
All right, so where was that? The last two sentences of the.
Yeah, they're around 12,918.
There are around, you might as well read, 12,900. You done read the whole sentence. There are around 12,918 living in Guatemala. There's also a Hmong community in Argentina. Colombia, Peru, Argentina, Brazil, Panama, and Venezuela also have Asian Indian communities.
All them Asians. All them Latino Asians. It's like that's a new race of people. Literally.
Yep.
Facts. Big facts. And I didn't even realize it. I don't know if anybody else out there didn't realize it.
Can't see the what year was that again?
What year is it?
What year?
Hold on, where we at?
We're in the 1800s.
Yeah.
Well, they're on the geographic.
Yeah,
distribution.
1830s. 1830s. It had to be.
Yeah.
The reason why I said California, because at that time, although we know it's Mesoamerica, but they considered California part of Mexico, which would be South America. That's why I said we ain't even got into what we know as Mexico and the western part of the United States today. So it's going to get greater later.
Say it again so they can hear you.
Oh yeah, this transportation go all the way up to Canada. Don't worry, it's coming.
Grand Rising, Pamela Hall Pass, aka my favorite foreman named Pamela Hall. What it do?
Just said, get back to work.
Alright, so where we at? Let's sell out.
On the Japanese Peruvians.
Mm-hmm.
These are all Asians now.
No sell out. Can you read or you need me to read? You need me to read? Macadon says, read!
There is a Hmong community in Argentina. Oh, do you know how to read this?
Yeah.
Japanese Peruvians have a considerable economic position in Peru. Many past and present Peruvians Many past and present Peruvian cabinet members are ethnic Asians, but most particularly Japanese Peruvians have made up large portions of Peru's cabinet members, and former President Alberto Fujimori is of Japanese ancestry, who is currently the only Asian Latin American to ever have served as the head of any Latin American nation. I'd like to do it again one day. Brazil is home to the largest Japanese community outside Japan, numbering about 1.7 million with ancestry alone. That's real close. 1.6.
Uh-oh.
Brazil is also home to 10,000 Indians, 5,000 Vietnamese, 4,500 Afghans, 2,900 Indonesians, and 1,000 Filipinos.
Stop.
I will.
Come on, man. 1 point how many? 7 million?
1.7.
7 million?
Yes. With ancestry.
And remember, you know what else we got to remember too?
What that is?
Argentina and all this stuff last week, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what happens when these people come across these Germans and these Irish Catholics that went down there who chose to go there? Remember, millions of them in South America at the same time these people were showing up.
Mm-hmm. There's a whole lot of shaking going on. Gumbo.
A lot of these people coming in are males. So all these children and stuff are coming from who? Indigenous women of the area. And foreign men. Again, creating new classes of people, new distinct classes of people, depending on how long particular people were isolated amongst each other and who else they came into contact with. See, it don't take that long to change physical features of somebody. You can do it in one generation.
Yep.
Relatives, y'all starting to see it?
Shaking my head. Enough to make you go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Before you know it, that's gonna be a new race.
Cocoa Puff.
Yeah, and David, a lot of it wasn't forced. See, this is where we have to be honest. Yes, you do have some cases where it was forced, but naturally, what happens when you have people who move around each other? They don't have to look alike. They can have different backgrounds, but over time, reproduction is a natural instinct. I don't care what nobody say. It's a part of human nature.
Come on, buddy.
It's a part of news. You're gonna want to recreate yourself. So what people gonna do, men and women, they're gonna pick of whatever is around them. That is the reality. Ain't nobody forcing nobody today to have children with particular people. People are choosing still.
If you want an example of that, look at the military and how you have a lot of soldiers getting sent over places where there are not many people or not many Americans. Like a lot of soldiers getting sent over to the Philippines, a lot of soldiers getting sent over to Germany, and even a lot of soldiers getting sent over to Hawaii. Yeah, so I mean, it happens.
Yeah, we have all seen that. Ain't nobody blind, man. Come on now. Anybody out there denying this? Questions, comments, concerns, and/or corrections, please email us at
Yeah, the difference between immigration, when you see it with an I, that means they're foreign. They're coming from someplace else. When you see it with an E, they're just moving you from one side of your land to another side of your land.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're living on the East Coast, you immigrated to the West Coast.
And Free hit the nail right on the head. Come right on there swinging the hammer. She said, flooding the camp intentionally. Exactly. Grand Rising Free.
Free acting like she was here this whole time.
She was here this whole time. I seen her.
Oh, no,
She was there.
Think about it. That's why I said we have to be honest. That's all you have to do. Remember what these people did. Remember what these Germans did. They purposely created ghettos and put people around each other, knowing that this would happen. This is a part of nature. You can study of civilization. Every time two civilizations came in contact with each other, what happens? A new distinct one springs his head out. Because, yes, some people ain't going to want to mingle with the new people, but that's not everybody. And as sure as people got the right to choose, people going to choose to do what they want to do, whether it's right or wrong. People have a choice.
Exactly.
May I take a line out of that great thespian Method Man on "You All I Need to Get By"? He tells you you can make war or make babies. Get that line out of "You All I Need to Get By." You can make war or make babies. Take your pick. And even when they were like, "Oh, marrying intermarrying with those niggers," remember all those signs all throughout the South? People were still making babies. And that's why I try to tell people, wasn't all this raping going on? They get to, oh, the slave master. Wasn't all that raping going on, son? They were getting with each other. I yield the mic.
As James says from time to time, goosing, shuggy duggy quack quack. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and start reading. Appreciate you, No Sellout, for doing the reading, brother. You always do it justice. Now I got a follower behind that. Big shoes to fill.
Ain't nobody doing nothing.
Big shoes to fill. Mr. TJ says naked. Ooh, that's old school.
Hey, man, you better stop reading stuff in the chat all the time.
He said naked.
Get us in trouble.
That's how bad.
Pamela Hall. That's
drive-ins.
Look, that's back there with Courtney.
Courtney.
I think that's a little before.
My mama say Coatin. She don't even say
You Coatin.
Yeah, Coatin.
Yeah, Coatin. Coatin.
Like, wait a minute. This is springtime. What do you mean, Coatin?
I'm not cold at all. What you mean?
I was like, no.
Boy, you out there, Coatin. Come on in the house. Oh man. LJ Free says duck duck goose, and then Oak Cliff says hunching. Ooh, I'm reading. Canada has been the destination for Asian Latin American immigration. The immigrants usually settle in the larger cities such as Vancouver and Toronto and immigrate into the overall Asian Canadian communities. So at the same time, now they're sending Asian Latins to Canada. So first you send the Asians to the Latin community, and then you send the creation of the Asians and the Latins, the Asian Latins, to Canada. Now you're gonna have Asian Latin Canadians.
You done took a new created class, moving them children up to Canada.
So are they called Calasians? I'm just saying.
No, they don't have to, because a lot of people keep forgetting Canada is Latin America as well. What language?
Oh yeah, that's right. That's
Oh
right.
man.
Yeah, I forgets about that. I forgets. My bad. My
Yeah,
bad.
marriage of Maximilian the First, and I forgot who he married. But yeah, that actually tied
Charlotte. He married Charlotte, didn't he?
Yeah, he married Charlotte. Yeah,
Yeah,
tying in the seats.
Mm-hmm.
Tying in the seats permanently.
Mm-hmm. So Japan. Japanese Brazilian immigrants to Japan numbered 250,000 in 2014, constituting Japan's second largest immigrant population. Stop.
So who are these people again? Woo! I'm just saying.
Hey man, can you read that one more time?
Man, listen. Japanese Brazilian immigrants to Japan numbered 250,000 in 2004. So these people went, so you had Japanese go to Brazil,
Have
children, and then their children went back to Japan, and they number 250,000 people.
Making now a new distinct community in Japan, changing the indigenous people.
The second largest immigrant population. It says their experiences bear similarity to those of Japanese Peruvian immigrants, who are often regulated to low-income jobs typically occupied by foreigners. So not only that, but they're also creating the classes. So if you Japanese Brazilian, you high class. If you Japanese Peruvian, you low class. What does that sound like?
Distinct class of people. Now, we're saying a distinct class of people. See, the key word is distinct. Distinct class of people being put together for particular classes and jobs.
Grand Rising Star right?
Basically, they breeding workers. Breeding particular people to be a particular set of workers.
Yep. Based off of what they, okay, here we go. Based off of what they name you. Remember that. Remember, Latino, where's that from? What is that? Japanese? These people didn't name themselves that. They were named that. Remember that. See, if you follow into the name that they give you, you become their workers. You become their employees. You become their contractors. You stick to what your mama named you, you your own man and your own woman. Therefore, you have your own rules that you go by. I'm just saying. Right, Joe 47, pet names. It also reads, now let's look at the United States. Most Asian Latin Americans who have migrated to the United States live in the largest cities, often in Asian American or Hispanic and Latino communities in the greater Los Angeles area, which is what James Flans was talking about. The New York metropolitan area, the Chicago metropolitan area, the San Francisco Bay Area, the greater Houston, San Diego area, Imperial Valley, California, Dallas-Fort Worth, South Florida, mainly Chinese Cubans. Wow. Did y'all know there was a Chinese Cuban population? I didn't know that. They and their descendants are sometimes known as Asian Hispanics or Hispanic or Asian Latinos. According to the 2000 U.S. Census, which was almost 20 years ago, there were 119,829 Hispanics or Latino Americans identified as being the Asian race alone. In 2006, the Census Bureau American Community Survey estimated them at 154,694, while its population estimates, which are official, put them at 277,704. Some notable Americans of Asian, Hispanic, Latino heritage include Harry Sean Jr., Franklin Chang Diaz, Carlos Galvin, Kelis, Kirk Acevedo, Chino Moreno. In the United States, there are Facebook groups that are devoted to Asian Hispanics in New York, California, and the Bay Area.
It's interesting. Warning, interesting.
Hold on, let me hit that warning.
Warning. Hard hats, pickaxe, shovels, boots required.
You want to see the recipe to creating new classes? Here we go.
Here you go. Wrote a song about it. Want to hear? Here you go. So Argentina, 120,000 Chinese, 4,000 Indians, 35,000 Japanese, 22,000 Korean, 15,000 Filipino, and 2,000 others. You know what the others are, right?
Indigenous.
Yep. You got Brazil. We got Bolivia that has 14,000. You got 14. You got 14,000 Japanese, 6,040 Koreans in Bolivia. In Brazil, you got 250,649 Chinese, 9,200 Indian, 1,705,685 Japanese in Brazil alone. 49,000 Korean, 1,000 Filipino. Colombia, they're not in the start to shrink. But as you start to get to larger cities like Mexico, they got over 35,000 Japanese and over 30,000 Koreans, and then over 200,000 Filipinos in Mexico. Over 200,000 Filipinos in Mexico. That's crazy. Nicaragua, it's not that many. Panama.
So yo, the 1.3 million Chinese in Peru.
That's crazy. Peru. And then they got over 160,000 Japanese. Puerto Rico, the numbers are really low. Venezuela and Uruguay. That's crazy. Come on, y'all. What's going on here? Then these are all the individuals that are notable people that are of Latin Asian or Hispanic Asian descent. I'm trying to drop a feather. Dragon. So you got some of everybody. You got these people that we didn't even know were of Hispanic, Asian, or Asian Latino descent. These are a new race of people, y'all. Man, a lot of notable Koreans. I mean, Brazilian, Japanese, huh?
Especially when you said Khalees, how many people knew that?
I didn't know that. I was like, Khalees? I thought she was a sister. Goes to show you. I know, right? I mean, but that's real.
That's why genealogy. I'm gonna say it again, genealogy.
It's crazy, man. It's a lot of people that are notable. So ethnic groups. You got Asian Argentinians, you got Asian Brazilians, you got Asian Mexicans, you got Asian Peruvians. Then you got Chinese Argentinians, Chinese Brazilians, Chinese people in Chile, Chinese people in Costa Rica, Chinese Cubans, Chinese Colombians, ethnic Chinese in Dominican Republic, Chinese migrated to Mexico, Chinese Nicaragua, ethnic Chinese in Panama, Chinese Peruvians, Chinese immigrated to Puerto Rico, Chinese people in Uruguay, Chinese people in Venezuela. So you see what's happening, right? Indians in Argentina, Indians in immigration to Brazil, Indians in Chile, Indian immigration to Colombia, Indian community in Dominican Republic, Indian immigration to Mexico, Indians in Panama, Indians in Peru, Indians in Uruguay, Indians in Venezuela. Japanese Argentinians, Japanese Bolivians, Japanese Brazilians, Japanese Chileans, Japanese Colombians, Japanese Cubans, Japanese settled in Dominican Republic, Japanese migration to Mexico, Japanese Paraguayans, Japanese Peruvians, Japanese Uruguayans, Japanese Venezuelans, Koreans in Argentina, Koreans in Brazil, Koreans in Chile, Koreans in Cuba, Koreans in Guatemala, Korean immigration in Mexico, Koreans in Paraguay, Koreans in Peru, Koreans in Uruguay. Y'all see this? I mean, come on, man. Filipino Cubans, Filipino Hondurans, Filipino immigration to Mexico. Then you have Asian Latin American enclaves, Chinatowns in Latin America, Japantown, and Koreatown. And for all those who want your sources, they're here. There are over, let's see, 39 sources. 39 sources.
Which has sources, in which they have sources, in which they have sources.
Mm-hmm. So, what's it gonna do, y'all?
And like I said, this is not us telling us. We're not telling you this because this is what we think. We just go through the history, and this is what their history tells you.
Exactly. Koreans are Asians. Yes, David.
So the narrative that A to.
Nope.
But like we said, it should make you, everyone that's rising, that's hearing this, you should start rethinking on how you were taught to view people.
Mm-hmm.
We have to. If the notion that we're not about being right, we're about getting it right, we must. Because these are things that were taught to us to keep us confused, to keep the truth away from us.
Here's a question. If you were docked $200 every time you mislabeled somebody, would you be labeled? How long would it take you to stop labeling people? Meaning, if you were docked $200 every time you mislabeled somebody by the eye test, how long would it take you to stop labeling people? Wouldn't take you too long, would it? Something to think about.
Yeah, because the mislabeling of people, when we do it as individuals, it keeps this system moving. You have to realize we are the ones that spread the system. They teach the system to the child. Then as the child grows, the child takes the system as a seed blown in the wind and planted someplace else and keeps spreading and spreading it. So the only way not the only way, one of the ways to start fixing this is stop spreading these misseeds, stop spreading these misidentifications. Yes, it's not going to be easy because it was something that it's in us. But we have to at least make a conscious choice to do better day by day. All right, you make a mistake one day, brush it off, and we try better the next day. But we have to start identifying people for who they are, not these pet names that keep you confused, not these created working classes.
And Pamela Hall made a good point. She said, so are these Asians Indian on reservations? Now, because that's what it sounds like. Well, if you think about it, look at the, again, if we're going by the eye test, and they would rock feathers, would you be able to tell a Matisse from a Latin American? I mean, a Latin Asian? Would you be able to do so? The answer would be no. If you're going by the eye test, you couldn't. And as we start to do more research and we start to bring information to you, what you'll find out is that these were some of the strategies that were being used to replace our ancestors when they started creating these tribes. The Huguenots started mixing with certain races of people, i.e. the Matisse, to get that look so they could eventually take our place. Again, what tribe were these people called? Because based off of the tribe determines who becomes federally recognized and who becomes just state recognized. Think about that. Because remember, there was a trade registry that was created in South Carolina in the early 1800s. And that's how they were starting to separate the Indians from the Native Americans. Remember, the Native Americans were the Huguenots that mixed with other tribes to create either a union or to create a corporation?
Yeah, because these same Asians in Mexico, some of them did get identified as what? Los Indios Chino. Chino is Spanish for what? Chinese. Los Indios Chinese. Chino. As in Chino XL.
Ooh, you gonna hit him with that though? You just gonna hit him with that? Okay.
But he let you know of his Asian descent.
Come on, man.
See it all in his eyes. No puns intended, but you do.
What?
El Boria says everybody is us but us, exactly. And Free says there's a small majority making things horrific for the masses. And yeah, you about to find out how horrific.
I'll tell you how well they blend in. See, I'm telling my age again. But there was a series of movies based upon two comedians, Cheech and Chong. And for decades, people thought that they were two Mexicans.
Nope.
And Chong is Asian.
Yep.
If you know about his daughter, Radon Chong.
Yep.
I yield the mic.
Dave's not here, man.
People growed up, how they talked, how they act was no. Had everybody food. But they smoke though, and
You got to remember one of the most important lines that was that was ever stated by a politician. Corporations are people too.
There. Corporations are people, my friend. Your boy old Mitt and Romney.
So if they can be a people, couldn't it be a tribe? I'm just saying.
We the people.
well, let's go back further. Didn't particular distinct groups get to identify as tribes?
Who are your first Native Americans? The Huguenots.
And what does Native American really mean? You were born here.
So technically speaking, anybody born here is a Native American.
Exactly. So people got to be careful when these terms. Are you a Native American? No. Yes, I am. I was born here. You got to be careful.
I'm a Native American, but my lineage is American Indian. See,
Come on with it.
Facts. We have to realize what these titles mean and how they're used legally, how they're used in society, how you're supposed to move with them. Stop letting people tell you about these UCCs and Element of P's. All right, man.
Look.
You will have a lifetime retirement plan with a roommate.
UCC. Did we talk about the UCC codes already?
You see your tail running from a dude named Chucky be all out of luck because he's trying to put you in a hello.
Hey. Nope. I ain't even going on mute.
That's it. Too close.
Yep.
What'd you say? I'm hip, I'm dip, and all the girls love mine. Gotcha.
That's why this whole race construct was to create it, to teach hate, to keep confusion. You spend the majority of your life, man, as a class of people, and do your research and genealogy and find out that's your people.
9 times out of 10, the people you hate the most be the most people in your tree.
Yeah. Declaring land and all this. Like, hold on, wait a minute. My family already.
Look. Ask me how I know. I'm going on mute.
Man.
I'm just saying we got to do better. We got to get it right. So pay attention. A Native American is anybody born in America. So the question is if you're trying to be a tribal member of a Native American tribe, there are criteria that they can detect that you belong to. So the question is, do you really want to belong to these tribes, or are we trying to figure out who sold out the original Indians and what they got in return and how they mess up our ancestors, and why there is, as Choctaw Jimmy says, why there's really Mason-Dixon line. Because if you cross that Mason-Dixon line, that means war. Who were involved in that? What Indians? What tribes? Stay tuned. James Flames, what you got for the people, man? Drop some nuggets on them. Drop some pellets on them. Please, sir.
And like that.
Still 72 plus hours. No sleep. Thanks, brother. No sellout. I appreciate you, brother. To those in the chat, the most astute chat on the planet. And oh man, you know, shot clock got us, but I wish had a little bit more time. And then you're gonna start getting into these Native American tribal names that you're gonna see that have China in it. Start looking to the Northwest, and you thought that these were Indian tribes, but they Native American tribes.
What?
But the term tribe is not synonymous with North America. Tribes are all over the world.
Keep trying to tell you, y'all gonna figure it out. So who's pushing the narrative to get you off of your land? As Brother Thomas keeps telling you, when there is an influx of a different group of people, the original people have to go somewhere. I would advise you all go back and look at the episode of South Park with Eric Cartman when he was trying to get rid of the hippies. When the hippies were taking over South Park, and he's like, where did they come from? They were coming from somewhere else. He got the bus and he put in that California love to get them out of there. You're gonna figure it out. In order for them to bring in more people, it's like the monkeys in the bed. Roll over, it's crowded. Somebody's got to roll over, and somebody's gonna get knocked out of the bed.
So here's a hint. If American Indians have been known to be sent to Africa, I'm gonna say it again. If the American Indians have been known to be sent to Africa, who's calling you African to get you to go there, and why ain't they going?
What is your banners? So the sky is silly to bikinis.
And why is it the people that are telling you that you from Africa aren't even from the continent of America? Why are they from one of the Carib Islands that sold the other Carib Islands out? Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. Too late. Shots fired.
Well, they should. And then coming over here and making babies so they can stay over here longer. What's going on in this camp?
You from the Caribbean Islands on a green card, but you in New York telling everybody they African, but you ain't going to Africa, and you creating children so you can stay here, but you trying to send everybody else to Africa. The question is why?
No, I'm glad y'all said that, because you know what else we need to throw on top of that? Why out of them 54 countries, again 54, not one person over there standing up saying, I'm speaking for my people that were taken away.
It ain't enough of them over there. I think no. They took a lot of them from over there and brought them over here, Bones.
11 million people, somebody family member still there. So why nobody from there ever said this story? Why the only thing they know about this story is what they get from our media? The only places over there that talk about this African slavery like that been touched by German and European or Americanized hands. Let's keep this 100.
So it's Taraji in the front seat.
Man, I'm just asking questions. I'm not telling you what to think, but my question to you is this: why the people that's trying to send you to Africa, why they ain't driving a bus or flying a plane?
They're not even telling you. Think about it. They're not even telling you to go to Africa. They're not even telling you to go to Africa from Africa. They comfortable in an apartment someplace, feet up, on your money, trying to get you to go to Africa.
Because I mean, you do realize that travel agents are agents, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you notice the travel agents never leave. They stay there at their desk. They ship you somewhere, but they don't go.
Man, listen, this foolishness got to stop because these people are so full of black pride, black power, African ancestry. So why are you still living in America?
Yeah.
You should be too proud of Africa if you're living in America shouting this. Think about it. If you're so proud of being an African, that's my people. That's where we come from. We were sold into slaves. So why are you here still in 2019? And I'm not saying this is disrespectful. I'm saying it as, come on, something wrong with this. Because I can only speak for myself. I'm an American Indian. I'm proud of it. I'm gonna live for that, and I'm gonna live that to the point to where that's what my children know, that's what their children gonna know, that's what my neighbors know, that's what my relatives who listening to the show this rising know. It resonates. So how can you say you're this proud African race of people in a foreign land and ain't went home yet?
Because look, anybody that was ever stationed in the military, this is proof positive. When you they have this thing called a dream sheet. And many of us, especially when we were young, our dream sheet consists of the places that we want to stay at while we're living there. Like my dream sheet had 5 Virginia bases. You know why? Because I was from Virginia. They sent me to Hawaii. I was counting down to get back to Virginia.
Yeah.
Most people, when they go somewhere and they live somewhere, they come back to where they're from. Even if a person gets drafted, aka slavery, they come back home. So don't get it twisted. It's all home, so you're gonna go back. Go ahead, boss.
You know what tells on them? Why would you need an American Colonization Act that then consists of one so-called African or melanated person on the high end to convince to put advertisements, flyers around for us to go to Africa? If we've been in this country treated so bad, beat on like animals, time you said you were free, we would have ran to the docks when they said they had
Yo, exactly. Come on, man. Where do we have that? Did they find that story? Do we have the boats that took the slaves back?
You beat me for 200 years, now you let me go, but I'm gonna move right next to you.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, to the point, I'm gonna walk in town around you, risk being hung and all this, but you've been treating me like a wild animal for 200 years.
Yep. At the same time, while they're sending you back, they're sending you back if you want to go. So why aren't you going? Think about this. If they're sending you back home and you're going to be treated better at home because that's where your people are, why would you stay here and get beat down?
Something got lost in this oral story that got passed down or something, because it's happening on both sides. Americans not reaching out to Africans and Africans not reaching out to Americans. I wonder if they're even...
Man, I'm going to quote Eddie Griffin Dan. No disrespect to the continent that they call Africa.
54 countries.
I have my 2 youngest sisters have Somalian ancestry. But until somebody from 54 one of them countries wash up on the shores of America with a spear, holler, and let my people go, I don't want to hear that.
Not even a political person. You wouldn't take somebody that's...
There need to be a Zulu warrior should have been came over on the canoe tossing where my people at.
I'm gonna be a little bit more direct because I'm gonna need a bigger boat. I'm gonna need a yatchet. Get some rooms. I'm gonna need a yatchet. I'm not gonna need a little rowboat or paddle boat.
They would have had me if one would have washed up on the shore with a spear. So where my people at? Come on, man.
Oh, I'll give you one better. The Africans that are coming over here may call you brother, but they don't want to have any dealings with you. So it's only going to be magnified by 10,000 if you go over there. They know that we are not the same people.
There's 4 million Africans in North America, and on the census, they're labeled different from us. If we are the same people, why they're labeled as Africans and we're labeled as African Americans? Can somebody explain this to me?
Oh, man.
If you look up
I think I got
right now, because what we did this one night, there's over 4 million of them labeled as Africans. And guess what? They don't live around African Americans. With they don't live around the so-called African American.
They don't.
You know why? They don't want to get lumped in.
So somebody had mentioned something about one of the people that I guess is Pan-African that said that they don't want to do anything. They don't want to leave to go back to Africa because their people helped build this. I have lots of relatives that were in the military that did a lot of building in other countries. You don't see me over there. I got ancestors that helped build up Germany. I got ancestors that fought on the beaches of Normandy in France. I got ancestors that was in Panama. I got ancestors that was in Hawaii. Matter of fact, I got a relative that died in Hawaii. You don't see me over there. I came back home. So don't give me that mess about your ancestors, what your ancestors built. My ancestors helped build not just the United States, but they helped build a whole bunch of other places. You don't see me over there. I came back home. So you need to try that lie somewhere else. I'm just saying.
No, stop the presses. Stop.
They can way you make it.
You stop the presses. What did these West Africans build over here? I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it again. And the reason why I'm going to break it down for you, it's gonna be real simple. What did they build? Because they didn't build Dum Dum Diddy in West Africa. So how are these buildings being erected, and some of them are still standing today? And the reason why these buildings aren't standing today is because they tore them down to build a new building, or they still would have been standing, but you built absolutely nothing in West Africa. So don't sit here and tell me that your people built this country. No, you may have picked a little cotton in this country. You may have picked a little tobacco in this country, but you didn't build Dum Dum Diddy because you didn't build anything at home.
And stop saying you West African, but claiming the works of East Africa.
Man.
Hold on, let's do timelines. 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 Let's do timelines.
Leather arm carriers and
okay, so let's be real. According to the French, according to the Iberians, according to the Germans, according to the Dutch, according to the Portuguese, there was no colonization in that continent called Africa until 1880 something.
Bingo.
So if that was the case, there couldn't have been any West Africans building anything because there was no colonization for them to build anything from. So with that being the case, somebody lying. Either you lying or all of Europe is lying. And I double dog dare you to say all of Europe is lying because you just declared war on not only them, but the United States. I dropped the mic.
All we have to do is look at today. Look at the misidentification of people today. And you have to ask yourself, what does that benefit? I'm gonna tell you what does it benefit. When they use our ancestor system to where the way of resources of the land are broken up amongst people to live evenly and justly, you start erasing sets of people or creating new sets of people that you can say are your subordinates now, because if it wasn't for your influence of pushing these people together, this class never existed. Why do you think certain areas are considered wards of state? Check the history of the people that they brought into particular areas.
How them West Africans to call me at 1-800-USE-A-FOOL?
On the request line.
I'm just saying, if you gonna quote that history, you are basically calling all of Europe liars. Everybody from the French to Portugal. And I dare you to walk up to one of them and call them a lie to their face. Go ahead, I'll wait. Go to the government. Matter of fact, go to the embassy, because there's an embassy in DC. Come here. Matter of fact, we can go together. Let's go to the embassy and you call them a lie. I don't think you got the cojones. Go ahead.
Even when we say Portuguese ain't real. That's another created construct. Some people are Gauls from out of the German-French area who set up the port of Gaul, later over time becoming Portuguese.
AKA the Iberian Peninsula.
Bingo.
Your
Just
Berbers. The original Moors. The people call themselves Berbers, and the French call them Moors. So your daddy is calling you a Moor, but you're more Berber than you are Moor. Just so you know, because your mama called you Berber. Your mama call you Berber, I'm gonna call you Berber. Go ahead.
If you do the history of the term, these people were called this what back in the 700s, 800s, 900s.
Yeah, before there was a Marcus Garvey. I'm just saying. Before there was a Quran Circle 7. I'm just saying.
That's what these people were called. True indeed, over time, we started getting labeled under these things, but the origin of the word pertained to who? Not no Moorish Empire and all this and that. This is where we got to be careful, relatives. We have to stop going for the pet name stories and get back to the root of it. Go back to the landmass. What did the indigenous people of the land call themselves? What say I'm a man, so call me by my name. My name.
Mm-hmm. So, anyway, I'm just saying, don't get mad at us. Timelines don't lie. And according to the timelines, there is no way possible that 11 million people could have come over from Africa during the late 1700s and the early 1800s where there were no colonies set up. And this is out of the documentation of the Europeans' mouth. Not just one, but at least 5. So either, go ahead, Bones.
They do got records of 15 million total and 7.5 German, 7.5 Irish that came.
Why ain't nobody talking about that though, Bone?
During the same time that this Atlantic slave voyage happened, these are the people on the ships that's being moved.
Timelines and doppelgangers.
1820 to 1870, and then now if you add on from 1820 to the top of 1920, that's millions. Talking close to 30-something million people from Europe coming over here.
Mm-hmm.
1.6 million.
Mm.
Oh, and I like to quote that great thespian, Big Bub from today. If you're taking all these 500 slaves on a ship and you're trying to go across the Atlantic, now you know you can't drink ocean water. Y'all know that, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it's gonna make you delirious and eventually you're gonna die.
Yeah, it's gonna kill you, yeah. Too much salt.
So to quote that great thespian Big Bub of today, I just want to know, is it him or me? Who's gonna drink the water? Who's gonna get the fresh water? Him, me. So I just want to know. So y'all help me to know. Y'all help me to understand, because I really want to understand. 500 slaves on the bottom of the ship, chained together. I'm still waiting on 2 chains. Somebody show me something. Don't give me no recreated statues that somebody put underwater. Again, don't get wrapped up in emotions.
I thought
emotions will
people,
get you in trouble.
We got an easy one, my brother Doodoo. We got an easy one. And this is no shot, none whatsoever. This is to show you the overlay story. You so much of a Moor, then that means you should be able to walk into the Turkish embassy and get a pass home. Because the Moors go back to who? The Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire still exists under what name today? Turkey. So that means you should be able to go to the Turkish embassy in North America and get your paperwork straight to label who you are.
I don't think I've seen nothing online of anybody doing that. I mean, they don't record themselves in court either. But no, they have not gone in.
Your ancestors would trace back to the land of Maghreb if that's who you are.
Embassies got
your
you.
genealogy, your people would trace back to the land of Maghreb, known as North Africa today.
Oh, I'll give you one even better than that.
Uh-oh.
They keep talking about this Negro land. And you're gonna find out that they were calling these Blackamoor explorers Negro, and you're gonna find out they were from Arabia. So where is Arabia? Arabia includes India, the land of the Nagas. We're gonna get back to where the Nagas originated from after these messages. I yield the mic.
Ooh, yeah.
James, to answer your earlier question, they had desalination machines on the boats on the way over here.
You mean like the former Marine that came up with machines that we used to use as a medic? Because yes, and I know people keep saying again, oh yeah, but you keep talking about that, Jake. As a medic, we had to make sure that all of the troops, including ourselves, when we were out in the field and dealing with wartime, that we had fresh water. So I know how to make contaminated water and turn it into fresh water. The same process that they do when they take it to the plant after you flush the toilet, they treat that water and that water comes right back up into your sink. So that thing, I know it, that's why I said about the doo-doo vision, keep trying to tell you. So
He just flicking it in your eyes right now.
Anyone who's been a medic in the military knows we have to do that too. You have to have so much distance from your waist to where you would eat. You understand the diseases? Y'all, nobody's factoring that in. Nobody's factoring in the diseases on you pooping and peeing everywhere. 500 people now. 500 people. There was no latrines in there. This wasn't you ride on the bus or the airplane when you flush it and you get the little blue stuff in the sink or whatever in the toilet. None of that on these ships. Come on, son. This is not a Disney cruise line. Come on, son. I gotta go. I'm out of here. Are you?
Yeah, ain't this at the time they using buckets still?
Still using the buckets. Same nasty bucket. So how you clean it out? And do y'all understand that? Here we go with this. Do y'all understand that urine is acidic? It burns through the wood.
Yes, it
so
do.
You got all these slaves in the bottom of the ship. So if you really wanted to be free, all you had to do is really like just TT in the belly of the ship. Everybody just TT and aim it for the same spot. And it would literally put a hole in the bottom of the ship.
Man, Toby, over here, not on the left, Toby. We doing it on the right. Over here on the right. Same spot, same time.
Still looking for those 2 chains, tennis bracelet, choker, ankle bracelet, earrings, chain that goes from your nose to your ear, like what's her name? Been around the world. What's her name? This stand been around the world.
What's Xerxes?
I can't find no slave ships. I gotta go.
Okay, so no desalination. Okay, all right. You didn't have those yet. No water worlds.
Now you right, but it won't D that sold the nation. It was a tribe that sold the nation.
Don't worry, we getting there.
And I want to put it out there. I have to put a disclaimer out there before we go because I know the hour's getting late. No shot to the real West African. You do what you do with what you got.
Facts.
But these African Americans don't sit there and talk about the greatness when I am still looking for the great edifices that were built there outside of that we know of the ones you like to call the Moors. Because don't talk about Mali, because we know what Mali felt, all that same region there that was considered Arab, the Ottoman Empire, and when the Dutch came, the Huguenots came, what did the people that migrated to that land at that area? Because again, those Africans that you calling West Africans will tell you they aren't from there. Even the Dogon, the most ancient people in that area, will tell you they were not originally from there. So what did you build? Don't show me a pitcher's mound and say, oh, this is what I built. No. Again, they are still using the Natchez Road to this day. They are still using the pathways and water system and rail system that were established by Indians over here. Where is that system in West Africa? You don't find it. The aqueducts, you don't find it. The governmental system, you don't find it. The script. So here's what's going on. I keep saying it, I'm gonna keep hammering it home. There are 5 elements to a civilization based upon academia that they like to use. One of those is script, which means a written language, a written form of communication. West Africans didn't have that until the Dutch. So West Africa had no civilization, period, based upon academia. But yet again, they were dumb over there, came across the Atlantic. I guess they snorted or ingested or I don't know what they did with the salt water in the Atlantic, got smart, and all of a sudden it came over here and started drilling Olmec heads and aqueducts, and they got so smart, they got a written system. Come on, son. It's not logical. I'm sorry. Those that you say were brought over here, they didn't build anything. And I'll break it down even this much. Even the real Afrikaans that came over here didn't build anything. They built their little homes and that was it. They were farmers, they were laborers, which is why the battle was between the Union and the Confederate States. And the Union were those Huguenots, those Afrikaans that came over here and went to the North. It was a labor dispute, as Brother Bones was breaking it down. They had nothing to contribute. Again, these Indian tribes were building edifices. West Africa was not. And I invite any Pan-Africanist, you can email me. You can send me a message. You can send me a virus. I don't care. Send me something to show what you built. Don't give me Northwest Africa. It's not going to work. Don't give me the pyramids because they can't explain the pyramids, but yet people over here can explain your Egyptian pyramids. Man, I gotta go. I'm sorry. Y'all go ahead. Go ahead. Y'all knock it out. Go ahead. Pew, pew. I'm sorry, I'm back. I told you that's sleep deprivation. you find all these great edifices all in Asia. You find edifices all in Asia, which includes India. Like I said, and everybody talk about, those savage Cambodians, but you got Angkor Wat. Show me the West African Angkor Wat.
I'm glad
Show
you
me
said
the West
that.
African Egypt. Show me the West African, the pyramids that are underground and off the coast of Japan. Every other area on the planet, even up in what we call Britain, they got Stonehenge. Something was there in Stonehenge. I don't know what they tore it down because the people there didn't know what it was. But we're gonna get back to that Cheddar Man and how that ties into Stonehenge, after these messages. But show me these great edifices. You can't. So then you come over here and you start building things that doesn't make sense. Then you turn around, I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna yield the mic. Then you have Washington, D.C., that people try to say, it's in the shape of Egypt. And I fell for that too for a little bit when I was a little younger. But then I started looking, I'm like, wait a minute. This is the same layout that you will find in Mesoamerica. The Temple of the Sun, the Temple of the Moon, the Temple of Kukulkan. That's the same layout. And they wasn't going over to Egypt like that, but we do know that these Europeans were all in the Americas, Mesoamerica and South America. So who built DC again? And who were these people again? I yield this cotton picking. Oh, no, I gotta go. One more thing, but I'm sorry, Brother Bones, you go at this. I'm done after this. I leave you in the hands of that great thespian from the British invasion, David Bowie, the great David Bowie. He had a song that was called Little China Girl. I wanna get excited, my little China girl. She says, oh baby, just you shut your mouth. Shh, she says. And then he married Naomi Campbell. I yield this cotton picking mic.
Yeah, Bones.
Look at it this way as well, to add on to what James said. Now you take these land masses and split it right down the middle, both ways, into these four corners. You notice you had the constructions that are similar in the four corners, but what's dead center that doesn't have it now? Run that line through the equator and run that line from north and south. Split it in four. Very interesting, huh? Seems to me like people started in the four corners and migrated in.
So we're gonna talk about these timelines in Africa or what? We're gonna talk about the fact that all the Europeans that colonized said that there was no colonization until the 1880s. So where these slaves come from that built all this stuff that's supposed to have been built in America? I'll wait. So you mean to tell me? So you mean to tell me they came over in 1885, built everything in the 16 to 1700s? What were they driving? Did they have a DeLorean?
Yeah.
Because you can't be somewhere. You can't be somewhere in the present. Or you can't be somewhere. Yeah, you can't be somewhere in the present you hadn't been in the past. So, where were they? Where did they come from? The only people that are talking about Africans coming to America from Africa is America.
That's what I'm saying, man. It's like the other countries know one thing, and we just know our thing, and it's like nobody in this country even looks at that like, okay, so are we gonna talk about everybody not getting taught this history that we getting taught? I mean, we behind in a few suhectos when it comes to countries versus countries. So I don't know, man. I'm just saying.
I mean, don't people find that strange that the countries are supposed to send the ships over here aren't showing any proof that there were any ships that came over from over there when they're saying that there was no colonization until 1880 because of malaria. You got the timeline of malaria. You got the timeline for the vaccine for malaria. You got the timeline for the pasteurization of milk and for orange juice. You got timelines for everything except, drum roll please, Africans coming to America from African as told by the Europeans who had enslaved them and brought them over here. I'll wait.
Hold on, ain't that like a major part of history though? What you just say?
No, you find that in the fictional section next to roots.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, give us free or something. I remember.
Remember the time?
And I'm gonna say it again. Roots and the African should tell you something. If you're able to write a story that's based off of truth and some of the stuffs are added on to fictional, it's based off of a true story. But now, if information and facts you got in it and none of it is verifiable, what is that considered? Fiction, right? So if there's no verifiable evidence or no slave trade or no Africans and stuff like that, therefore it makes both these books that talk about this story fictional.
But you got the Kente Kunta Kinte cloth, and we know that cloth is found in South America.
Oh, you talking that tribe that he made up that don't even exist over there?
But exist over here in the Americas. Yeah. And we already know how they were moving Indians from one part to another part, and that the majority, you're gonna find out, oh my goodness, the majority of these people that were being moved around moved voluntarily to work. They weren't in shackles. That is why you find all of these labor disputes and rebellions and revolts all throughout the Americas and Mesoamerica. Because I'm gonna drop one. I'll drop it later. I'm gonna drop one about one that keeps saying he's African, but he was not, because he had the fro. Now he's called an Afro-Mexican, but he's not African. It dealt with his hair and had nothing to do with him being from Africa, how he led a revolt in Mexico, because he's like, okay, we are working and you guys are not compensating us like we're supposed to. And he took his machete and started taking folks out. These were not Africans. We know that Jamaicans were going into the mainland. We know that Nicaraguans were going into the island. This is European documentation saying that. They were all the same people. So where was the Africans? Again, malaria, bad air. How are you going into the jungles of Africa grabbing folk? How are these cannons facing out to the Atlantic Ocean and not inward? Because if you're kidnapping my people, I'm coming to get them. And the most you can get out of someone from one of the houses in what you call Africa today is, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know that happened to your people. I didn't know you were shipped over here. What?
Wow.
And that's what they'll tell you. They're sorry that it happened to your people. To let you know, two different groups of people. Two different groups of people. I'll say it again. Two different groups of people. And no one is saying that Africans didn't come over here. I'm not saying that. You got a group of people that say, I'm not saying that at all. What I'm telling you is there's 20 million to 100 million, and you got 85 million that drowned on the way. Man, that's a lot of people wiped off the planet. And you think about it. You think about just from World War II, how many people were killed? And it wasn't even close to them in the tens of millions. And the children still have to learn this in school today. So if 85 million, right? 85 million, about 80 million, because they say 100 million were kidnapped and only 20 million made it over here. Nobody on the planet is writing about 80 million people being wiped off the face of the earth.
But
nowhere.
But James, how about this? Since they were insured, where's the insurance policy that paid out for all those that died? There's got to be a paper trail. And this is beautiful. And here's the beautiful thing about sources. The beautiful thing about a source is sources can be verified or they can be debunked. So let's talk about some sources, shall we? We have sources from both coasts that there were over 17 million Germans and Irish that came to the Americas. We got verification from Germany and Ireland, and we got verification from the Americas. Check. We got verification that the Asians sent millions of people to not only South America, but they also sent them to the Caribbeans. Verifications from the Caribbeans, verification from the Asians, verifications from the Latin American countries. Check. We got verification that there were American Indians sent from Americas to Africa. From Africa, and we got a verification from the Americas. Check. We got verification that you had Jamaicans sent to South America to work in those fields. We got verification from Jamaica, and we got verification from South America. The only thing we don't have verification from both ways is that there were Africans that came here during the late 1700s and the middle 1800s from Africa to the Americas. So that means it's not verifiable, so therefore it's not a fact. Case closed. I relinquish the mic.
I said it's simple. All you have to do is study the history of the land masses. It's in their history. Stop letting. How you gonna let? That's the funny part. You're gonna let a European tell you the history of what went on in China when the Chinese can tell you, or the land that's known as Philippines or the Philippine Islands can tell you. When you see all they did was move people into areas, created a new class, then took that new class and moved them to a whole nother area. Then that class came in contact with another class and moved them to a whole nother area. To where you have what you have today. Everybody got a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Like it or not, it's the facts. That's why genealogy is the key, because everybody's mixed in this soup. To walk around in 2019 and think you're 100% anything is foolish.
except when you're West African, son. Because like I said, now wait a minute. I know and I'm not going to request that you go back, but if people get an opportunity though, again, rewind, go to that setting and slow it down. Because it was read today, all of the ports that these Asians came in on, all of these other ports, and that's all I keep saying, all of these other ports, and you have people that are focused. I know that New York City is one of the largest cities, but when you compare it to the whole world, it is but a grain of sand. And if you're trying to say that all of this flow came through the port of New York with all these Africans all the way, and you want to narrow it down to New York, you're crazy as all get out. Because all the ports that you're going all the way down, I heard San Francisco, I was here in Galveston, I heard Houston, I was here in New Orleans, all these different ports. And that's just on what we call North America. All these different ports. And we know they even went through, like I said, the port of Seattle. We know they went through, like I said, there's a whole tribe that's tell you that they Native American, but they're Chinese. They were Native American Chinese that got with French women. Don't believe me? It's spelled this way: C-H-I-N-O-O-K. Chinook. Tribe that you will find in Northwest United States.
And again, that's short for what, James? Chino, which is the Spanish word for Chinese, which goes back to coolies, which is the Chinese word for what? Laborer. And the coolies are what? Chinese descendants.
You just gonna tie it all in like the end of a show.
Well, we started the show with the info, so we might as well bring it back to where we started.
Yeah, you right. Proof is not a problem.
Right back to where we were. And again, this goes back, you talking about those coolies, get back to the coolio. Y'all keep listening to Gangsta's Paradise instead of Pastime Paradise, because coolios done fooled you. And that's why they keep saying, oh, well, you Native American, but it's showing up East Asian. You Native American, but it keeps showing up East Asian. And nobody's connected the dots. Really? Now look at, like I said, that's why I said you have to have the buzzwords to get to the real elders that are still there. You don't see them on media outlets when they talk about, oh, we ran into a real native of this land. And like I said, they literally are blowing spit and snot in your face, talking about, oh, I went through this ritual. And you'll see the same thing going on in Asia. Remember the game that the monk was playing on Eddie Murphy in The Golden Child? Picking his nose and wiping it on his jacket and all that kind of craziness. Y'all remember that? They running the same games. They putting their boogers on you, blowing it in your face, talking about, oh, they gave me the ancient ritual of the Peruvians. No, they running the game on you and taking your money, idiot. And then you wonder why you coming back and you got typhoid fever. Come on, son. Coolio. Typhoid fever. Come on. I yield the mic. I gotta go. Man, I tell you, this sleep deprivation is doing me good, man. I'm on. Hey, wait a minute. What was that? I'm doing fine on cloud 9. Woo! Sleep deprivation. Gotta go.
And don't forget, the 1800s, that's the second wave of them. The first wave of these Asians started when? 1565. All on the west coast of North and South and Central America.
Timelines. All right, good people. Before Doodle Vision catches his third wave, that we be here at 4 o'clock this evening. Y'all think I'm joking? I ain't joking. I'm for real. So don't sell out. What you want to tell the good people before we get up out of here? What you got for them?
Oh, it's over? You don't need me to read nothing else?
No, bro, I don't need you to read nothing else, but we appreciate you, though.
Okay, all right. Peace to the chat. Peace to everyone who showed up and spoke up today. Peace to everyone who viewed the channel today. Man, the panel and these hot mics. Glad I got my own. It's all right. Peace to y'all. Appreciate everything y'all do. And if somebody out there, I mean, it's getting kind of weird now. How many months, Bones, we've been live?
7 months straight, 5 days a week, haven't missed a beat.
Man, I might have been out of town a couple times, TMH too, but no, this is okay. I ain't got no email yet from nobody asking a specific question about anything we've been speaking on as far as these timelines go. So after 7 months, I'm just gonna shut it down, I think. No, I'm not gonna do that. Man, just email us, just to say hey, if you can, sometimes. Peace, y'all.
David Corey talking about some TMH. Hold on. David, you do realize that the show is supposed to be from 8 until 10:30. We're running over, bro. Grand Rise, J Sasquan. Appreciate you, bro.
8 to 10. We gave 30 minutes. They wanted 30 more.
I know, right? You know. Man. But we appreciate y'all. We appreciate the love. Do the vision. Come on in and let the dogs just one more again before we head up out of here. Do what you do best, bro. Just let us have it. I'm muting my mic.
Man, this has been another blockbuster. In case you didn't know, the influx of the acid reflux. Keep regurgitating. Will a dog return to its own vomit? Yes, it will. So you keep spitting out what you have learned from the British in Oxford about all these Africans coming over here, but everybody else was coming over. And Brother Bones said a nugget, and I hope y'all didn't miss it earlier. Why all these people requesting these Chinese over here and putting them to work? It says for cheap labor, when at the time you're supposed to have slave labor. Free versus paid for. But I guess we're the only people, right? Because if we see a free Samsung, oh, we don't want that. It's a Samsung. But I'm gonna pay $3,500 for a new iPhone. And Samsung can do the same functions that iPhones do. But I'm gonna pay 30 because I'm a big ball and shot caller. I'm gonna pay $3,500. iPhone, free Samsung. I'm going to pay Asians to work for me, but then I had free African slave labor right next door. And they were just kidnapping people like foxes were stealing chickens, huh? Just taking West. Well, let me just. I need a couple of million here, a couple of million there, like an auctioneer.
Just grabbing them up.
Slave over here, soul American. Yeah, is that how they do it?
Grab them by the neck, right?
Yeah. Like what they call it when you go to a little honky tonk. Grab your partner by the neck, grab African, and keep her in check. What are you doing over here? Come on, son. They just shackling you. They just putting you in all these shackles. Oh man, let me tell this emotional. I get so emotional, baby. Emotions. So you cloud nine. Again, sleep deprivation. Man, but y'all keep falling for the okie doke if you want to. Keep falling for the okie doke if you want to. He tell you, and all due respect to Dr. Ben, he did what he had to do. That was his hustle. 100 million Africans were taken, but only 20 million made it. Now, I don't know where those odds are in school. Let me see. If I get a 20 in school, I fail. Let's try any professional sports. 20% in basketball. No, that turns me into Sean Bradley. Some of y'all don't even know who Sean Bradley is, the praying mantis. 20% in football. No, that won't get you there.
You won't even make Pee Wee League.
Exactly, 20% of your throws. Let me see, baseball, and that's the lowest percent. That's the only place where baseball is the only sport where your percentage could fail below 50%, and you make it to the Hall of Fame. 20%.
It's got to be at least 35 to make it to the Hall of Fame. Got to be at least 35 to make it to the Hall of Fame.
And that's horrible when you think about percentage-wise, but only 20%. And I'm an insurance company, and only 20% of my investment I'm gonna get. Come on, man. You go to Vegas with those type of odds. You go ahead. Matter of fact, I got some prime real estate to sell to you in Southeast Louisiana.
Hey, I was about to say the same thing.
If you want to do that, then hey, man, let me get my accent down, man. You want your credit repaired? Hey, give me $99, but I give you letter and I fix your credit, okay? Okay, things you do for free, you pay me, okay? So same group that's telling you 20%, but you got all of these insurers investing in these African slaves, and 4 out of the 5 don't make it. Come on, son. I mean, Thomas, you're a businessman. Unmute yourself.
Yes.
You're a businessman. Mm-hmm. Would you take that kind of investment? Would you take that kind of venture, a partnership where you only get 20% of what you invested?
Ain't no way.
Here's the best way to do it. For anybody that's ever had car insurance, have 3 accidents in 10 years and see if you don't get canceled.
I'll tell them you only paying 20% of your bill this month and see what happens.
It's math. I mean, it's just simple math. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this mess out. You're not going to invest in anything where you're losing over 20% of your inventory, or where only 20% of your inventory make it. That's dumb. You might as well throw the money away.
That's all. I was just saying, but you got people that are convinced that a particular people are the most intelligent people in the universe, but yet you're going to tell me they're so stupid that they're going to spend, for every dollar they spend, they only going to get 20 cents back. Man, that's some wimpy. I will gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. You go ahead and keep falling for that wimpy if you want to. Mm-hmm. You have fallen for the okie doke. But I leave you in the words of that great philosopher, Dave Chappelle. You can be whatever you want to be. But those Chinese will tell you, I'm Chinese, but I'm Latinese, because that's how I feel inside. I yield this cotton picking mic.
Oh man, I hate you guys.
So, with that being said, again, getting back to the timelines, according to the Europeans themselves, out of their own mouths and their own documentation, they were only 10% of the colony, 10% of the island was even used or had control of before the 1800s. It was on the borders. They wouldn't go inside. So unless all the Africans were standing around the tree line waiting to get captured, which would have been stupid, then they couldn't have got all them slaves. But I digress.
Hey, I'm over here.
So, sometimes being smart don't make you smart. Peace to the new subscribers. We definitely appreciate you. Peace to the Attackless Assembly Silent Majority, or the A2 Samaj. Appreciate you. To the best chat. Oh, what's up?
I ain't gonna lie. David Corey almost got us.
What'd he do?
I actually did forget that we was closing out.
How you forget?
I don't know. I was sitting here thinking like we were still going, and then you started close. I was like, wait, why you skip me? And then I was like, wait a minute, I already went. He got me distracted. Good job, David Corey.
And now you distracted
cover
me.
up the clock. Yeah, well, he said cover up the clock. I ain't even like next to you. He talking about cover up the clock.
And you ain't in the bed, David Corey.
My bad. I just had to point that out. That he did a good job of distracting me in the chat because I was neither here nor there.
We would make horrible substitute teachers, right? We would just suck.
No, great substitute teachers.
No, horrible.
That McGraw-Hill getting punted down the hallway. Exactly.
Anyway, to the best chat on earth. You too, David Corey. We appreciate y'all, everything y'all do, keeping us on our toes, making sure we always have our sources. We always get that information out to y'all. Remember, sources keep the playing field level. Without the sources, you're just talking. Sources make things verifiable, and it makes it easier for people to do their research to determine whether or not it's valid or it's not. Because if it can't be validated, then it's not a source. Just remember that. So remember, we do what we do to help people do their genealogy. So these timelines will help people understand exactly where their people were, who was in control, who was ruling, so you know which archives to pull. Because you don't want to be pulling French archives if the Iberians, aka the Spaniards, were in control. So with that, I've relinquished the mic to Bones H. McCoy. You know what to do, bro.
All right. I appreciate TMH for the work you put in every rising, as well as No Sellout and our brother James Flames, aka Doodoo Vision. Appreciate the members of the chat that's active every rising, and the ones that show up just to listen to gather the information. Much respect to all the new listeners, because you could have clicked on any channel this rising, but you chose to catch the cab. Appreciate it. And we're gonna leave out with this. Sources are very important because it kills and eliminates all the foolish rhetoric. It shows you where you can point back to prove your case. And make no mistake about it, what we're doing is forming our case. Every episode that has ever been done on the Cab Show, you can always find the sources in the A2 form. Everyone under the Autonomous Assembly form. So if you ever need the sources, the information for yourself is there. So if someone asks you about it, you're not just repeating what you heard on the Rising Show. You can actually repeat the actual source, point them to the source and the references for the sources. And that's how we start fixing these false narratives, by not using emotion, by using the truth. Like our sister Free always say, truth is like a lion. Let it free, let it roar. It needs not to be defended or protected. Just put it out there. So on that note, everyone take some time out to find more about your story. If you can, help a neighbor, help a friend, help a relative with theirs. I don't care if it's 5 to 15 minutes a day. You should be worth that much. So on that note, everyone have a very, very...
Brother Bones, I'm sorry. Brother Bones, I'm sorry. Brother Thomas, don't push that button. Do not be like Peter Griffin. Do not press that button.
Yeah, wasn't that an Asian man?
Brother Bones, brother, can y'all drop that link? Because I want people to have sources. Can y'all drop that link that Brother Copper put in the Indio put in the back chat?
I can.
Dealing with those Indians in the Northwest that I was talking about. Because James just be talking out the side of his neck. He just be popping his gums. You drop that link in there. Now you go ahead and close it out. I'm sorry. I'm sleepless in Seattle right now. I yield the mic. Go ahead.
On that point, we can add this in. Proof is not a problem here, partners. But yeah. But like I was saying, everyone, have a very blissful day. Enjoy the rest of it. We are the American Indian. Be proud of it. Be willing to live for it and scream it from the top of your lungs and let the world know we are still here. So on that note, everyone, peace.
Am I off mute? Mic check. 2. Dose. Oh, okay. Peace, y'all.
Warning, warning, warning. Hard hats, pickaxe, shovels, boots required.